All right. Hello, Idiots on Parade, the Too Ugly for TV podcast. We mock the news so you don't have to. I am Nathan Timmel, stand-up comedian in New York. No, I'm in Iowa City. Wow, that's how tired I am. I'm in Iowa City. That's Jake. He's in New York City as always. Hi, Jake.
How's it going?
Luke, are you in Chicago? Luke Borchard's with us this week. Are you Chicago based? Or?
I am just north of Chicago now. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, I thought you had.
Nice.
Were you in Chicago for a while?
Yeah, I was. I go to Chicago often, so yeah.
I
You're
don't
right.
stalk you well enough on the social medias to know where you are, these days. But I did remember Chicago. All right, we'll promote you at the end. Let's jump right into.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for
No
joining us.
worries. Happy to be here.
All right, my favorite story of the week is I just love the. Oh, fuck, I got a pop-up ad. Here we go. Right-wing influencers were duped to work for covert Russian operations, U.S. says. The U.S. Department of Justice filed lawsuits and indictments. The most famous one I've heard of was Tim Pool, but basically they got stupid people who believe and say stupid shit and paid them money to continue saying stupid shit, but also sort of said, hey, you could say this stupid shit. And it's funny because they're saying they're victims, but everything I've read since then is like, there's a reason right-wing shitbags were targeted because they're already dumb and say, I'm not saying this couldn't happen on the left. It absolutely could, but they targeted the dumbest of the dumb because they believe the stupidest shit. And it makes me laugh. It's kind of sad that, confirmation bias, but Luke, what were your thoughts when this story hit the airwaves?
Well, for me, it's just one of those things. Like, of course they did, and like, I just don't understand how some people can just, when you're in that kind of, when you're in the, the thought, what do you want to call thought media process, like, and you hear these points that they're paying you to do, like, how could you not like think this is odd? This doesn't seem to line up correctly. I just think it's funny that they were duped. I mean, like, I don't know. It's it was definitely like it didn't really catch me off guard too much because I know that there are different things that work, but I just think it's funny where they're like, yeah, totally pro Russia. Like, how is that?
But it didn't catch me off guard because it was what their idea. From what I've heard, their talking points are is they were saying most of that shit anyway. It's like,
Yeah.
Doesn't it bother you that the stupid shit you were saying aligns directly with the Russian? Like, you didn't see a blur, like you didn't see a change, like, oh, I was saying this, but now they want me to say something completely outrageous. It's the idiot shit you were saying so closely aligned to propaganda that's why they didn't notice or catch it. But Jake.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This whole thing sort of annoys me a little bit on behalf of.
You just freeze up. Yeah, he locked up completely.
I didn't think it was fair when.
Pause.
Right.
You completely locked up. You said it annoys me on behalf of, and then we lost you completely.
Got you. Well, yeah. My internet connection is unstable. God damn it, this might be a problem. Yeah. Basically, I will start off what I'm saying by prefacing it with, I thought it was fucked up during like the Iraq War, when the right said anybody criticizing the war, that means they're for the other side. It was fucked up when the right did it during Vietnam. They did not give people on the left the courtesy of like, hey, you're against the war, not the troops, or you're against the war, you're not pro Saddam Hussein. I will give the right this courtesy. I think there's, legitimate concerns with how much money we're spending in Ukraine. So yes. I don't think automatically like, well, they agreed with Putin on the fact that we shouldn't give money to Ukraine. Therefore, they're pro-Russia, they're Russian assets. I kind of don't like that. I think there's a lot there. It's sort of like left-wing McCarthyism with the whole anybody criticizing the war in Ukraine is bad. That said,
let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you. I just what you said made me think of the example. I said it could happen on the left with COVID. The instant you said anything like, hey, are we sure this came from a wet market? Are we sure the vaccines are going to make it so
right.
you can't get or spread it? You were fucking hound. I was like, no, you are against the. And then it turns out, yeah, We don't know where it came from. Best guess is it was a wet market. The vaccines just made you less sick. It didn't mean that you never got it. Yeah, if you didn't toe the line 100%, then yeah. So imagine if someone had been feeding, and they were. It was like you posts got covered up and taken down in YouTube and Facebook and social media on the left. We're pressured from the left to toe the government line.
I also feel bad for the Russian government. I think they wasted a lot of money on this one, duping these influencers. Here's the thing: I know people in comedy and that kind of dive into the other, like, political world, whatever. They would have just taken a check. These people will just, like, you spent too much money on, like, Russian James Bond or whatever. You didn't need to do that. You could have just sent one shady dude, like, here's 20,000. I give you 20,000 a month to say what I want you to say. This good. They would have done it. They would have just said, yeah. And it's also like, it's a weird thing in terms of, well, I'm gonna trick these people into saying, like I almost feel like if you're the Russian spy, you're like, if they're already saying what I want them to say, how about I just make an anonymous donation? Because the second people find out I'm involved,
or just
totally
sit back and don't do anything.
Song.
Like, wow, they're doing all the work
Right.
for me. Why do I even need to pay them?
Yeah.
Because they're already saying the stupid shit. Like Luke and I said, or like it's not like they strayed so like, ooh, Tim Pool is suddenly making sense. Like, no, he went from I love Trump to I love RFK. That's not a big leap in, a common sense. That's just like I went from an asshole to a dipshit. Sure.
If I were to hop back in and say, it really does. When people complain about certain things in the media, I always remind people, like, people get paid to put out stories. So, like, this 24-hour news cycle situation, there's people on the clock, so they have to produce something. So it just kind of ties in with these guys where they're like, of course we're going to take your money and we're just going to keep saying the same stuff if you're going to basically sponsor us to do it. So
I do not drink soda. I think it's bad for you. If Mountain Dew came tomorrow and said, "Hey, will you plug Mountain Dew?"
Monster.
No, you drink Monster. I'm saying personally, if Mountain Dew said, "I'm going to give you $1,000 to say drink Mountain Dew on your stupid podcast," I'd be like, "Hey, kids, fucking Mountain Dew, drink it." Like, I'd sell out. I'm not mad at these guys. I'm not, shaming them or saying that I'm better than them. No, I get it. You fucking sell out. Take the money. Say the stupid shit. And it's funny you talk about the Jake and I talked about this a long time ago. I don't want to go down this path, but you talk about news needing something to fill. It's also news is entertainment. When Don Lemon got fired from CNN, he said the first thing he did was call his agent. And I'm like, what? Why do you need a Hollywood agent if you're a newsman? I just thought that was a funny, odd, because I need my fingers in Hollywood. No, you don't. You're a newsman. Either you're a personality or you're a newsman. There should be a line, but there's not. There's a blur.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, honestly, I think Don Lemon would get paid by Russia if they offered him at this point. You know what I mean? Like, if they just flat out said, "Listen, it's Comrade Lenin from here on out," he would be like, "How many zeros? How many zeros are behind it?" I think
money
most
from
of
Elon
these guys.
Musk. I mean, he got fired right away, but yeah, he's going to take money from anybody.
There you go. Why not Russia? Why not Russia? I'll get paid in rubles. I don't know what the if there's an exchange fee or whatever.
Rate,
but
yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a fee to flip it over. If it's enough rubles, it'll eventually equal enough dollars. I think that's what's going on in the mind of most of these influencers.
Yeah. I wish they'd gotten paid in Bitcoin or something where they got paid one amount, like it happened to who's the football player? Fuck, I can't. I can. Beckham, Odell Beckham. He took his paycheck in Bitcoin, and then the value plummeted, and everybody pointed out that he just lost something like $500,000 because he didn't take it in cash, which was amusing.
Yeah. Well, and actually, you know what? Screw it. If there's any Russian spies watching this podcast looking for, just looking for potential pushers, we'll do it for the cheap. You know what I mean? Because I don't like, their message, but I don't think us going on a podcast and being like, I think the vaccine was invented by Ukraine to try to, slow us down to where we eventually give them money. I'll push whatever weird, crazy thing they want, because I don't think that is going to affect the dollar amount that the Pentagon and the Biden-Harris administration give Zelensky. I don't think us talking shit one way or another affects that. So I'll get paid to say whatever by whatever side. I don't think it weighs in. I don't think it's affecting policy.
And let's put it this way too. It could be affecting public position, public opinion, but if you are dumb enough to listen to and trust Tim Pool, you're probably dumb to believe a lot of things. So if anybody out there wants to pay us, we'll say stupid shit, because if you're stupid enough to listen to us, fuck it, drink Mountain Dew. Like Mountain Dew, Pepsi, give me $1,000. I don't even need. They were getting $100,000 a month. Give me $1,000. I'm good for the year. I'll say drink Mountain Dew on every fucking podcast.
That's true. I'm constantly drinking Monster on here. For low three figures, I would claim on this podcast that these are filled with rat cum, and that you should drink Red Bull instead of Monster. I would, you know what I mean? I would do a taste test. I'd be like, yeah, Red Bull gives you wings. Monster tastes just like rat jizz. I did it. I blind taste test. I'd be peeking. Don't worry, Red Bull. I ain't gonna do you wrong. Give me $3,000, and I will.
That would mean you blind tasted rat jizz.
Yes. According to this podcast, for the right price.
That means you know what rat piss tastes like.
Jizz. That's right. I'll claim to become a rodent seminal sommelier. I don't care. I'll create like a fake university for it. Like, if the price is right, I'll really sell this thing.
Yeah. RJU.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
It's hey, we don't have the most well-respected alumni, but it's definitely the most fun reunion parties. You know what I mean? Those guys ain't prudes.
Okay, next story. I'm not gonna lie, I can't say this guy's name. Rael Enteen, this is the best guess. Commanders fire VP for comments on players Jones-Goodell. He said, I don't have the quotes I have there. They summed it up by saying he accused the team's players of being anti-gay. They were homophobic, accused Cowboys owner Jerry Jones of being racist, and called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a $50 million puppet. He said the fans of the Washington Commanders, whatever, called them mouth
Did the
breathers.
Russians get to Roger Goodell?
What's that?
They're like, we're doing influencers and the
VP
and the guy who owns the Cowboys.
But here's the he thought he was on a date with a woman.
The Dallas Comrades now.
This woman took him on a date, but it's a reporter, and she had a hidden camera and a hidden recorder. 50% of our roster is white religious. God says fuck the gays. I don't buy that. He says he said another big chunk is low income African Americans that come from a community that's very homophobic. I don't think the NFL, he says, I don't think the NFL hates gay people, hates black people. Jerry Jones hates gay, black, but he sort of just speaking off the cuff. And my favorite part, where is it? Basically, he got fired because they say they do not represent his views. It's like, he's calling you out for your bullshit. It's not that you don't represent his views. He fucking got honest because he thought he was off the record. And so, yeah, I wish I could find the language he used. Runs counter to our values at the Commanders organization. That's what it is. Yes, the Commanders, a team that's got a long history of being called the Redskins up until 3 years ago. I mean, the idea that he said, yeah, but we know this Butker is not an outlier. He's the norm. He's just the one that talks about it. Fucking the Vikings' old quarterback, Kirk Cousins, is a super Christian. But basically, yeah, they're not known for being inclusive. The NFL pushes pride and women, but it doesn't mean the players are the most enlightened. He didn't.
Yeah. Most of these guys are from poor backgrounds, and you probably shouldn't look to these guys to. Sorry to cut you off, Nathan.
No. I rambled on long enough.
So like, yeah, I don't know. It reminds me of that whole. There was a couple years ago. It was probably more than a couple years ago. Like Manny Pacquiao. He's from. I think.
Sure.
He's from
Philippines, right?
The Philippines.
Indonesia?
Dave Chappelle had that really good bit about this.
Yeah. And he's from like a poor. You probably shouldn't look at Manny Pacquiao to be your front man for like gay rights or anything like that, because he's a fighter. Like he's He gets
Yeah,
punched.
they're football players. Most of them are from the hood or the country. What did you think they thought about this? What did you think that the 97-year-old owner of the Dallas Cowboys thought about trans women in sports? Like if you sat him down off microphone, like what did you think his opinions were going to be? Hey man, I'm not, I don't support homophobia, transphobia, any of that, but it's also like, these guys aren't hired to play football or manage football based on their opinions. Now, it's one thing if they're going out in front of cameras and being like, excuse me, press conference people, journalists, I got something to say. Right. As the quarterback of this team, I got a little something to say about this goddamn Dylan Mulvaney and these Bud Light commercials. You know what I mean? Like if they're really going nuts, I get it.
Yeah. But here I found one of the quotes I was looking for. He says that he in this not interview in this he said that the NFL's social justice initiatives were, quote, performative. It's not done out of the goodness of their heart, he said. It's done because George Floyd changed the game. It's to make as much money as possible. Right. The NFL cares about the bottom line like any corporation above all else. Fuck you, Commanders, for saying that his words don't align with your values. Jake and I have talked. Every corporation does that simply so they simply do this. Pride Month is good. Okay, let's put out rainbow flags. Now there's a conservative guy that has Harley Davidson and another. He's going around getting them to drop their DEI things, and so they're going, all right, we're getting protested. We're dropping DEI. They don't give a fuck about any of it. All they want is to sell product. That's it.
Well, yeah, and I will say to go back to the George Floyd thing. The NFL really had to go hard in that lane during George Floyd because of how bad they handled Colin Kaepernick. Like that's what. So they had to way overcompensate because of that. If the NBA or the MLB or whatever had booted a guy for taking a knee to protest police brutality, they would have had to do the same. They would have had to paint MLB and the Jesus Christ, with my acronyms, you know what I mean? They would have had to. The MLB would have had to mow BLM into all of their outfields. You know what I mean? Like they would have had to go really hard to kind of undo what they did before.
Mm-hmm. Good goddamn point. Good goddamn point. Is there anything else in this article I like? But on the video, he said some players are, quote, dumb as hell, and some who were smart don't stay that way after getting hit in the head.
Yep.
Did you read? I can't remember what it was, but Antonio Brown, the guy famous, took off his shirt and danced on the sidelines before quitting in the middle of a game. The guy is functionally illiterate. I read something he wrote. I mean, it might have been tweets, but he's functionally again. There were a couple instances where we saw them just getting passed through college. They don't learn anything.
A lot more back in the day. It was fairly common to where, you would have illiterate
and then my boy
in the NFL and stuff.
Aaron Rodgers 5 years ago was articulate as fuck, and now he's a conspiracy theorist. I listened to him on Rogan, and the thing that bothers me is not that they have these well thought out sort of here's what's going on. When I listened to him, it was literally, well, Bill Gates, and farmland, and then they move on like they've just made some deep point, or that everybody understands. Like, is Bill Gates a billionaire? He's buying farmland because he thinks that's valuable. That's pretty much it. But they just sort of toss these words out that they think have meaning. And he's taken a few too many hits.
Yep.
I do love the idea of Aaron Rodgers sitting there going, this vaccine, I think it might be bad for me. It's like you have 400-pound jack dudes trying to rip your head off every single play. Yeah. And you're worried about the goddamn vaccine. They are running into you as fast as they can. These freakishly fast giants are slamming through your offensive line to try to give you a concussion every single Sunday. And you're worried about the goddamn vaccine.
Whenever you have the ball in your hand, there are 11 guys actively trying to hit you.
Yeah. Also bad for you. You know what? Does the vaccine cause autism? Probably not. You know what definitely gives you the shakes? What you do for a living. No one has ever shot themselves in the chest so scientists can study their brain because of what the booster did to them. Well, I mean, a couple did, but they were crazy. They were listening to Aaron Rodgers' podcast too many times.
Yes. I mean, and then not to go into this, but since we're there, the percentages, it's like less than 1 in a million. Will someone have an adverse reaction to a vaccine? Yes. People also have adverse reactions to getting in a car and driving somewhere and getting creamed by an 18-wheeler. Like, if I don't know the numbers, I'm making these up, but the percentage, the chance of getting hit in a car accident is much higher than having a reaction to a vaccine. Yet for some reason, we freak out over the vaccine, any vaccine, and we get in our car willy-nilly, like, yeah, I'm just driving to the store. Shit happens. I get the fear, but the what we're afraid of is out of whack.
Yeah.
All right, next story. I love this one. Oh my God, this made me so happy. Not the event, the aftermath. Last year, Jake and I talked about how exciting it was that the Crumbleys got charged for being shitty parents because their asshole kid and went and did a school shooting. Well, Colt Gray, asshole in Georgia, shot up a school. Well, now his father, Colin Gray, was charged with involuntary manslaughter and other things because, as same as in Michigan, there were alerts. The FBI talked to him. No, my kid's fine. Went out and bought him a fucking gun or left his guns unattended. They said, are your guns locked up? Yeah, they're like, fucking, we need to charge shitty parents for this. I can't, obviously it's not every time, you can't just throw, but when it's obvious, when you go to the house and do an interview and say, hey, we have warnings, we have alerts, and the parents ignore, fucking charge them, throw them in jail. That, I am so happy that this is happening. Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, this country is very big on the Second Amendment, and I think this is probably the best step towards being able to try and mitigate these things from happening. Because if the FBI comes to your house and talks to you about your child, and you're like, nah, man, like that is a huge flag.
Yeah,
it's like, be responsible about this.
It's tough because I'm not in favor of like most parents of these people getting charged, but I think it's got to be really extreme circumstances, which I think this was. If it's to the point to where we have people documented, like authority figures coming to you and telling you that this kid is threatening to, shoot people, like whatever, and then you go and buy him a gun. I mean, that's different. I mean, they're talking about like a slippery slope thing with this, but I don't think that's the case. I think both the cases we've seen people charged with this, it's been pretty extreme circumstances and all that.
Well, I want to put something out to
I'll be right back.
I want to put something out to our 4 listeners. I have said this in the past, and I don't remember when the last time, but years and years and decades ago, couple of kids listened to a Judas Priest album, tried to kill themselves. One succeeded, the other fucked himself up. And I saw a documentary, and I've never been able to find it. It wasn't well produced, but I liked the content. It was a very like low budget documentary. One guy just got a bug up his butt and said, "Oh," and he went. The family of the guy that survived said, "Oh my God, this heavy metal music is horrible. It caused my kid to commit suicide." But over the course of the documentary, over the course of like a half an hour, just by sitting back and letting the camera run, you realized, oh, these parents fucked this kid up. These parents are the ones that drove this kid to isolation and thought that his life. And so, yeah, I'm going to 9.5 times out of 10, it could be a situation that nudges them over the edge, the straw that broke the camel's back, but it goes back to parenting. Yeah, I get you can't charge everyone, but anytime someone is crazy enough to carry a gun into a school and shoot a place up, you're going to trace it back to the family life somehow. It doesn't happen out of the blue, ever. Now, what can you charge the parents every time? Maybe not, but there's something going on under that roof that caused it to happen. It's more than just bullying at school.
Right.
Or whatever reason. I just tossed that one out there.
when that's the thing is that's not always the case, man. I mean,
Oh,
you
wait,
know,
sorry. Let me finish. I apologize. So my point to the viewer, if anybody can find that documentary, not the Judas Priest parking lot one, people come back and go, oh yeah, Judas Priest parking lot. No, it was a specific documentary about the kid that survived after trying to commit suicide, listening to, I believe it was Judas Priest. All right, go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
I mean, you do see sometimes where it's like, yeah, the family kind of seems normal. I mean, that's not always the case, and so that's why I don't think you can charge most of these people. Shit, I guess you know a sort of notably famous one was Dahmer. You know, like his dad seemed fairly normal. He kind of blamed himself for, oh, I showed him how to taxidermy animals when he was 10. I mean, yeah, it's a weird thing to do, but I don't think that would just push somebody to be a fucking cannibal. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a few extra steps you need in between there. And so, I mean, you never know, man. It could be somebody who was abused outside the home, and that's why they're crazy. It could be a number of things. They're just born schizophrenic, and for whatever reason, mommy and daddy were fine, but the neighbor's dog was telling them telepathically to go shoot people. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's plenty of things that can cause that to happen. But did you see? I only learned about this when I worked on the music channel. But do you remember the you were talking about the Judas Priest thing where they were suing, claiming heavy metal did this and that. Do you remember Beavis and Butthead? The fire thing.
Yeah. Fucking, so, it was they put the kid in front of the TV. It was like literally the TV was a babysitter.
No,
like,
no. Worse than that. Worse than that.
The Ben Franklin one where they watched the Ben Franklin thing with the key and they started the thing on fire?
They burned on a mobile home.
There was a kid. So if you watch Beavis and Butthead episodes from back in the day, the thing where Beavis goes fire, right?
Yeah.
They took those out of the episodes, you know? I forgot
because
about
of the kid that burned the mobile home?
Yes. They took them out of the episode. There was a big, and I remember this once they kind of reminded me of it, but I was like, oh yeah, this was like way in the news a lot, you know? Yeah. It's the fire chief of that town was really pushing to get the show taken off the air and sued and all that stuff. And so they just re-released the episodes without the fire stuff. And because apparently some kid was, you know, he was little. He was, I don't know, like 6 or 7, something
5,
like that.
6, but they were putting the kid in front of the TV and just
letting it. No, they weren't. No, it gets better. It gets. Well, I don't want to say better.
I could have sworn it was. But go ahead.
No, that's what they claimed. The claim was the kid was watching TV. He lights the trailer on fire. His little sister dies. Right. Well, you do the math. I mean, that was about 20 years ago. Some mega fan of Beavis and Butthead found this kid who's now a grown man, interviewed him on Instagram or whatever, and this guy said he not only had he never seen Beavis and Butthead, they did not own a TV in that trailer. Their mother was a hardcore drug addict, fell asleep, set the mobile home on fire. They went with the story. I was watching Beavis and Butthead, and the funny little cartoon man lit it on fire, so I did. And you know, she talked him into it. Of course, he's a little kid at the time, and she's going, do you want to get taken away from mommy? Do you want? I mean, you know, it was an accidental electrical fire, but they're going to take you away. It's bad enough you lost your little sister today. Just go with this. This fire chief just ran with it, you know. And no, it was a junkie who lit her trailer on fire. They did not even own a TV, and then she blamed like MTV, Beavis and Butthead, so she wouldn't go to jail.
Holy fuck! I never because the reason I kept pushing because I thought it was bad enough that they tried to blame the thing when the kid shouldn't have been watching that in the first place. My point wasn't, he watched it and then he did it. My point was
way worse.
Fuck.
So what I was talking about was the episode of Beavis and Butthead, because it's almost like they didn't spoof it, but they were like, so Beavis and Butthead did something that ended up in the hospital because they watched something about Ben Franklin, and then the reporter said it was something that had to do with heavy metal. So
right, it was. The thing is it was such a stretch. If you would have like, hey, what's one thing that Beavis and Butthead do that's gonna like get them in hot legal water? The fire episode, you wouldn't have thought that would be the one, but that's what got him, man.
Well. All right, we got time for two more stories. I think this one I should have put this one. I tag teamed with the Russian disinformation because I clicked on the wrong thing. Um, Jesus fuck, dude, on Tucker Carlson, he
Oh,
invites who is this asshole? I can't. Where's his name? But basically, he said Hitler wasn't a bad guy. That Churchill was the chief villain in World War II, and that you know the death camps were trying to be humanitarian in killing all the Jews because
yeah.
well they're just starving to death. So shouldn't we just start gassing them now? Like he's speaking logically. It's the most anti-Semitic Nazi apologetic clip I have ever seen, and then people started trying to justify. It's amazing what people can get away with. He literally goes on and is a Nazi apologetic, and Tucker's sitting and nodding and listening, and now people are defending like, well, you're taking his words out of context. No, his contextual words are the Nazis rounded up the Jews, then they put them in camps, and then they said, oh, we're not prepared to have all these prisoners. We should put them out of their misery. It's
Right.
fucking absurd, and people
Absurd.
are trying to justify it. I'm lost. Luke, jump in.
I just think it's 2024 is never going to surprise me, I guess, but it's just how these people like I get it new that there's never a new story, it's just a new listener, and he's trying to do this now almost 100 years after the whole like almost 100 years after the whole travesty thing, about 20 years off there, but it's just how could you sit there and be like, oh yeah, totally, they were just doing, if like I tried reading Mein Kampf that Adolf Hitler wrote, it was nothing but anger. And I got through like the first like 20 pages, like I can't do this. But it was just he was such an angry person, and this was such an angry move. How can you just sit there and be like, oh yeah, no, this is humanitarian. We were just doing this.
Yeah.
Also, he wrote in third person too much, and I hate that. I hate that more than his message.
But the clip, what I said, I think I actually sugarcoated the clip because he just talks about the humanitarian aspect but he seemed to skip the whole part where they rounded everybody up and put them in these camps in the first place. Like he just sort of made it seem like, oh, they weren't prepared to have all these people in the camps and all these prisoners of war. You started wars, you invaded countries, and you rounded up specifically not just gypsies, but you targeted a religion. You were trying to it's extermination. It's fucking bizarre to see. I get it. If you're an asshole, that's the agenda you want to push. But to anybody trying to say, "Oh, I hear where he's coming from," fuck.
Yeah, they had enough money to give them uniforms and stars to wear and tattoo their arms and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's off Fox News now, and so he's got to kind of go more fringe and crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think this is part of that. And when he interviewed Putin, he was just kind of doing the nodding as Putin's going, yeah, I mean, I gotta take over all the stuff that used to be Soviet. What? That's not crazy.
Even Putin said there was an interview after where he said he expected more pushback, if you remember, where he said,
yeah,
that wasn't much of an interview, Tucker. Just fucking let me walk all over him.
But see, here's the thing. The Russian, social media spies or whatever they're called that are paying the other right-wing influencers, they're sitting there going, this guy is like pro-Nazi. We can't have that. He's like too much. He's getting too hot for us. He's getting too hot for Mother Russia.
Yes.
Because we lost a lot of people. You're offending a lot of the Russian army that fought against Hitler. So we can't. He's now too hot for the Kremlin, and the Kremlin's got to back away. They're like, bro. I mean, it's we like the American right wing, but he's going German 1940s right wing. We lost a lot of guys fighting that. We now have to back away from Tucker. Tucker is now too right wing for Putin to get tangled up with. Putin's now getting canceled in Russia for doing an interview with Tucker.
Final story. Jake's beautiful wife, Amy, apparently needs help. She wrote to the New York Post. She wrote to Dear Abby. Dear Abby, my husband's personality changed for the worse when he quit abusing drugs.
Joke's on you, Abby. I didn't include a goddamn thing.
That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
Don't you slander me in that goddamn article. Abby, my wife,
finally
is a
kicked
liar.
a long-time prescription drug habit. Our finances improved almost overnight. But
Abby,
his
I did a
personality
bump just
changed.
to
Don't get
read
me
this
wrong. I don't
fucking
want
article.
him to go back to abusing drugs, but he's mean. He's angry. Well, yeah, he was
He's going
stoned
through
and
withdrawals.
happy. What did you expect?
Oh yeah, dude. I read this. I was so on the guy's side. I was so on the guy's side. I'm sitting there going, yeah, I have to just reading her letter. I was like, I gotta crush up some prescription opiates and just fill up both nostrils just to get through this annoying woman's article. Oh my God, yeah. And she's sitting there blaming the husband for the whole thing, going, well, he said that he would do relationship counseling. It's like, okay, go on. He didn't book the therapist. It's like, it's your idea.
Yeah.
It's your idea, lady. Why don't you? He said he'd do it. He's waiting for you to book the therapist. And her excuse is, well, I just didn't want it to be a therapist that he knew since we were in his hometown. And then Abby, this fucking pandering whore, she writes back. She writes back to this lady who basically says what I did, but didn't call her a twat. So she's still kind of wrong. And she's like, yeah, just make a list of therapists. Tell them I'm going to go with A, B, or C. If there's any you want, or if there's any you don't want, go ahead. It's like, it's your idea. If I say to my wife, hey, we live in New York and I'm a diehard Lions fan. Do you want to go to the Lions game with me? They're playing the Giants or they're playing the Jets. And she's like, yeah. And then it's game day. I show up in my blue Detroit Lions shirt and I'm like, dumb whore. Why didn't you buy the tickets?
Yeah. Why didn't
you do it?
Yeah.
The thing I want to do. Why didn't you go and research this thing that you don't really give a shit about, but it's my idea. It's the thing I want to do. Why didn't you do it? I'd be a bit of an asshole. Yeah. And I don't think Abby would take my side, nor should she.
No. All right. I can be found at nathantimmel.com. All things me, a comedy special, a t-shirt store, nathantimmel.com. Jake can be found on all forms of social media at Jake Vebra every Thursday live
my
on
upcoming
YouTube.
Special, Unalived by Dog Pills. It's probably going to be out on YouTube soon.
Oh, it's going to be out soon. All right. I've been hesitating to ask because I just wanted to make sure. But also we're less than a minute. So Twisted Cupid live on YouTube every Thursday. Luke, promote yourself quick before we run out of time.
You can find me on Instagram at the real Luke Borchard, and I am also on the internet www.lukeborchard.com.
There you go. And I've been calling you Borchard because that's what it looks like. I always forget to pronounce your name. Because we met through a guy named Kevin Shaha, and he spells his fucking name all sorts of bullshit. So you people with your easy to spell but impossible to say names, thanks for coming on. Absolutely appreciate it.
Thanks for being on, man.
Thanks for coming on. Right. Thanks for seeing you.
Bye, everyone.
Abby is a lying fascist being paid for by the Kremlin.